Hello, hello, Graeme. How are you doing today and where are you dialing from?
Hi, I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm currently in Mexico.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I know it's only the start of the day for you, so thank you so much for dialing in today to join my hot seat session. The purpose of this session is to showcase our lovely mentors and help our audience enjoy their blind spots and gain competitive edge. Today's topic is very interesting for me. It's probably the first time that I'll be talking about the metaverse potential, so I'm excited to talk about this. But before we dive deep, let us learn more about you and what you're doing as your profession.
Hi, I'm Graeme, and in 2021 I created a business called Etiv, which was designed to create immersive, engaging experiences for the tourism industry. And we'll probably talk a little bit later about the journey to getting there. I also, along that journey of creating the business, went to some events where I have had a habit of picking up partners as I've gone to those events. So the first one was an innovation event in Glasgow, where I was on a panel with two great people. One was David and one Damien. David Syme's actually a Gleek mentor as well now too. And David, Damien, and I were on a panel about innovation through the metaverse, but we realized we all looked at it in slightly different ways that complemented each other. So I was coming at it from what it could do for tourism. David was coming at it from the purpose of how could digital twinning and metaverse in oil and gas and other industries develop. And Damien was coming at it from the point of view of innovation and how could we use innovation to develop the metaverse in other industries that weren't at that stage doing it, like healthcare, for example. So we all complemented each other, and Damien had this great idea to create a platform to support economic development for Scotland using the metaverse called Metanor. And that started our journey on defining what Metanor will be. So we started Metanor about a year ago, and 6 months ago, I was at an event in Dublin, and again, it was about virtual tourism, a panel, and there I met Gillian and Jill, and we together have now created the Metaverse Tourism Association, which launched a month ago. So yeah, every time I go to an event, I pick up partners, but it's been an amazing journey. We've managed to get the support of Scottish tourism and the technology industry in Scotland for the development of the platform. So it's really exciting.
Well, that sounds like a lot. Thank you so much for this introduction. So, before we dive deep into the topic, of course, I'd like to ask you, why have you chosen metaverse? What is the metaverse potential for you? And since the title of our event is its expansive potential, do you think it actually can be used across many industries, not just tourism?
So, in order to answer why the metaverse, it's important to dive down a little bit into what the metaverse is from our perspective, because there is different viewpoints on what it is, from something Mark Zuckerberg has created at Meta through to something that happens in the gaming industry, through to our perspective on it. So our perspective on metaverse very quickly is that the internet is evolving into an internet where immersion and experiences will drive economic development. So instead of going to a website and clicking that you want to buy something and purchasing it and walking away, this process will become a social experience. So you might go in and try that particular item on with your virtual self to get a feel for what it's going to look like. There may be a social element where you're talking to other customers and getting their feedback as well as getting their opinion on what you should do. So if we look at where the internet is now and where it's been evolving from text and images through to the evolution of things like YouTube, and then you've got Google Maps, where you kind of are immersed, but you have very little control. You're just seeing what's there. what we think the next step is seeing and doing and having individual control of where you go, what you look at, and what you do.
Perfect, perfect. So I'd like now to share your screen because you wanted to show us the video how Metanor looks like. But disclaimer for our audience, I noticed that the video is way louder than our conversations. So to watch the video, you might need to lower your speakers a little bit. So let's start the video for our audience.
Okay, so this is our show reel to give you a feel for what Metanor is for, and then we'll dive into what Metanor looks like today.
Wow, it's really a lot. And I think it's like Metanor is a wordplay for Edinburgh City, right? It's the copycat of Edinburgh.
Yes, so there's actually a little bit to unpack there. So this idea of this immersive world, the way we're attacking that is to create a virtual twin of Edinburgh, and there's lots of different reasons for that. But one of the things you'll see, hopefully highlighted in the video, is we effectively have four pillars of how we want to use Metanor to develop the economy of Edinburgh. Education is key, initially as a way of having our own internal program to upskill people to how to utilize the metaverse and create in the metaverse. And we're very lucky to have two Scottish universities that are going to offer the courses in the educational part. The second thing you may have seen there is e-commerce. We're very keen to look at how e-commerce can be developed and turned into that social. I gave you the example like shopping on Amazon and how we can make that more of a social experience. The third one is tourism, and that's from the perspective of how you can entice people to visit a place and using Metanor as a gateway, but also how you could utilize the digital as a way of extending experiences as well. And the final column or lens that we're looking at is events. So when you have events like the Edinburgh Military Tattoo or the Festival Fringe, and these are world-class events that Edinburgh is famous for, but of course there's always demand for tickets and limited availability, and so we're looking at the potential of how to use Metanor as a way of getting a feel like you're there without actually potentially having a ticket and coming to Edinburgh if you can't travel. So that's a little bit of a background as to what we're trying to achieve.
Great, wonderful. And I think you also wanted to show us maybe just a glimpse of how the platform looks inside, maybe like you are as a character in Edinburgh, in Metanor, I'm sorry.
I do, yes. 1 second and I'll set that up. Let me see. Okay.
It's right here.
So hopefully you can now see where I am. So I'm just going to get up the map here. So this is a sandbox testing environment, and we're using generic modeling with it, so it doesn't look like Edinburgh, but I'll be able to give you a little bit of a tour, and you can see some of the things that we can already do inside the sandbox. So you'll see that we're already at the cinema here. So I'm just going to come in, and then I'm going to go to the theatre.
Over here.
And I'm going to put
Are you sure
myself
it's him?
up.
It's him. Cops.
Sit down. And now,
You better put
whether
that
in
gun
first
down,
person or in third
or I'll
person,
literally shoot you in the
I
back of the
can
head with this
sit and
rifle.
watch a movie. Or it could be that it's a live stream, or it could be any type of
You
event.
can shoot me, but I ain't going back.
This is just a simple example
you
of
won't try
what's
it again.
possible.
I ain't a killer. And the jury decided otherwise. Yeah, 7-1.
So as well as the working cinema, we have other things that we're working on. So if I go to Expo, there we go. You can start to see what the current streets look like. We've used a few US models, so it does look a bit more like the US than Edinburgh at the moment. But if I go to the Expo Hall in here, then this is set up for conferences, for example. So you could project yourself, you could project the web, you could project presentations on the main screen and have people sit and watch it. We also have an AI-powered live translation system. So if you're talking and you set it to say you're talking in English, then any of the individual attendees can say, actually, I want to hear that in Chinese, or I want to hear that in Spanish, or I want to hear that in French, and it will automatically translate that and provide subtitles to the presentation. There's more to this as well. There's a bigger auditorium for larger events there, but it gives you a sense of what is already here. I'm then going to go to the arena. So let's go up and have a look at the arena. So right now, this is set up as an old style ice hockey stadium. There's a reason for that. I'm a big fan of a particular ice hockey team, and they're looking at how they could potentially use this for generating revenue from fans that can't attend games. So here we are, we're in the ice hockey arena. This could be, however, this could be changed to be a concert hall, or it could be basketball, or it could be anything really. It's just currently set up as an ice hockey pad, because as I say, I have a particular interest in that at the moment. So we've also got the raceway. So I'm just gonna go in here. Every place you go, the ambience changes. So when you're outside, you see there's shadows on the person. The footsteps change according to the environment you're in as well. In some places you can hear birds singing, in other places you can hear other ambient noises. But I'm just going to go up into the raceway. So one of the concepts we're working on with this is the idea of using the raceway actively with visitors to Metanor. So we're looking at doing that in several ways. One being the idea that you could have your own vehicle, which we're calling Metan buggies at the moment. That's the official name for the moment, where you would be able to drive them around the streets of Edinburgh. But we're also working with a transport museum who would like their old style vehicles to come to life. So the idea that you would be able to have, let's say, an old bus, or Jim Clark's old F1 car that he used in the 60s, you would be able to have that as a digital asset, and you would be able to drive around Metanborough in that. We're also working with a city in Scotland famous for gaming and comic book characters, as to how you could use those comic book characters as tour guides, so that if you're visiting the real Edinburgh, then using augmented reality and the power of AI as well, you would have, for example, if we take an example from Disney, you might have Buzz Lightyear as your tour guide. And you just say to Buzz Lightyear, Buzz, I'd like to find out more about the history of Edinburgh, and in particular, I'm interested in the medieval period and what happened in Edinburgh during that time. And then that character will then curate a tour for you according to your preferences. So we've also got this as well. And in terms of outside space and ambience, I'll just take you to the fountain. So you can obviously hear the fountain, the water in the fountain, and you could potentially sit and chill and take in the sights here. And yeah, this is just our little box that we're trying out different concepts in. There is also a shopping mall platform, a little bit like this one, where we're looking at how you could use a digital twin of, for example, St James's Quarter in Edinburgh and use it as a retail destination. So yeah, I hope that gives you some insight into some of the things that we're building.
Yes, thank you, Graham. It is so interactive. I haven't done a lot of things with Metaverse, but this project, it gives me a lot of hope because you don't have to go anywhere physically. You can participate virtually, and it opens up so many opportunities actually. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. But on this positive note, we actually, prior to the interview, we had a question in comments from our audience, and it was lately we've heard rumors that Metaverse is rapidly declining, especially the use of NFT digital money plummets to 90 degrees. I'm not sure how much you can answer about NFTs, but what do you have to say about Metaverse?
Yes, so I can answer both those, and actually NFTs is a really good place to start because NFTs have been battered, I suppose is the best word, in the media, in terms of, that they're about artificial scarcity, but it's not really artificial because you could copy and paste the image, and it's all about hype, and it's all about trying to get the next person to pay more. And there is, unfortunately, in the blockchain community, far too many examples of that happening. But the technology of NFTs is actually very powerful. And so I'm going to give you an idea of how we're thinking of using NFTs to show the difference. So we think that NFTs need to get away from this idea that what you hold has an actual price and become what you hold can do something for you. And this concept is called utility.
That's what
So
we're doing in Gleek. I completely agree.
yes, exactly. Well, Gleek's a very good example with your NFTs. It's not what the NFT looks like. It's not whether it has a price. It could be perfectly free or a nominal fee. It's what it does for you at the end. So if you take a tourism example, perhaps you collect an NFT of, let's say, you go to a battle ground in Scotland. You learn about the history of the war between Scotland and England. You're particularly interested in armory, and you're given an NFT of armory as a souvenir. Well, the fact that you have this little token of a souvenir is nice, but what if we can then personalize the journey that you go on because you picked armor or you picked warfare, or you picked armor or whatever it was you picked as your area. So what we're working on is not that the NFT has value in itself, but having the NFT as a passport to something else. So for example, we're working on an AR tour in Edinburgh at the moment, which tells the story of a founder of a museum. The reason why is because there's not enough space or actually resources inside the museum to tell the story of the founder. But it's very interesting. She came across as a black Caribbean, as a black Jamaican, into a Scotland that wasn't very welcoming. She fought very hard to make her place in Edinburgh, And at the end of that, she is responsible for the creation of this particular attraction. And so what we're working on is an AR tour that takes you, once you've completed your experience in the museum, takes you on the story of the founder, takes you to the places that were important. Where did they land in Edinburgh? Where did they live? What was living there like? And then the intention is at the end of that, when the trail is complete, they would receive this little souvenir, an NFT or digital souvenir as we call them, to say you've completed that course. And then what we're doing with that museum is creating a club for those that have completed the trail to then receive more information, to get opportunities to discover more. Perhaps there's a lecture at Edinburgh University about topics related to that. They would get an invitation, and we can use blockchain to identify who the recipients were and who should receive it. So to us, NFTs have a purpose. It's not to make you rich by the value going up and up and up. It's a gateway to experiences, and also it's a badge of honor to say, I've done that trail, I've completed that task, just like you have in Gleek.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a really great example, and I can actually completely agree with this one. So, before we wrap up, let's have an advice or piece of advice for our audience. Imagine that they are just starting with their own metaverse initiative, just like you do with Metanor. What steps can you advise for organizations when they're just starting to not give up and actually be successful in what they're trying to do?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that by also talking just a little bit more about Metaverse, because I missed that out in my last answer.
Mm-hmm.
So on the Metaverse side, what matters to us is that the digital experience has tangible connection to the real world. It's either pushing people to visit the real world, or it's pulling as an extension. And this deliberate connection between the virtual and the physical is what gives tangibility to the metaverse as an economic valve. So in terms of a business that is looking to set out, my advice to that would be is you should start out by looking at where you already are. So what are your challenges that you face? What are your goals? What's your current strategy? And then work with people to fit where the technology and where those solutions may work. So as examples of people I've worked with, they've almost always had a particular challenge that they're trying to solve. So one might be, how do we make use of our attraction outside the physical space? We have a small building. How do we extend this and keep our story moving? Another one might be, based on data, our attraction is actually appealing to certain demographics and not others. How do we integrate the technology into our provision to attract that other demographic? So as an example of that one, if we take a museum that we did work with, the reason there was demographic differences between older and younger in this case was because the interior of the museum used old and technological exhibits, everything from a kind of windy up music toy all the way down to touch screens. And what they were finding is that older people were like, oh, I haven't seen this for a while. I'll go and touch this old traditional thing and go back to my childhood and think about, where I was the last time I heard one of these. Whereas the younger people are heading straight for the technology. They want to touch it, they want to feel it, they want to be involved. So combining those two, it's possible to gamify the process of going through the exhibits so it becomes a family adventure, and so the young ones get told about these older exhibits actually through the lens of their parents more often than not, because they're telling them about that experience as they use it, and the older ones get the digital side. So everybody wins because the experience is curated to ensure that the family enjoys that experience together. And so therefore you don't have the pester power of the younger ones saying, you know, I want to go to the next thing that's got flashy lights. You actually have a family experience. So yeah, that's where I would start. What are your challenges? What are your goals? And understand, particularly in tourism, understand very, very detailed what your visitor journey is. What do you currently do to entice them? What happens when they arrive? What happens when they start? What's their call to action to do something, see something? What is, when you're inside the attraction, how is that attraction structured to give them a journey and give them a story that they're going to follow? And then once you're clear on what happens where, it's where can the technology then enhance from the point we're at now? It's very difficult to go from zero to here's a digital twin of our museum that's got all these bells and whistles. It's an evolution, but it starts with a review of where you are now.
I think that's a great advice. Thank you so much, Graeme. And I'm reading the comments, judging by the comments. People absolutely agree with us. The possibilities are infinite as long as you know how to properly use and you have a clear goal on why you need the metaverse for your own initiatives. Again, thank you so much. I'm sure our audience enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, I highly encourage you to check Graeme's profile and see how he can help you develop your own metaverse initiatives. Again, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for how interactive it was. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see you thrive in our community, Graeme. Thank
Well, thank
you.
you. I'm really looking forward to being involved in the community and contributing as much as I can.
Thank you. Have a good day, Graeme, and goodbye.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.